just to respond quickly, I think the first thing you said is very important, and we hadn't mentioned. So, her failure to respond to intelligence that does seem to have come in advance of 9/11, and clear ineptness in that regard. And then the other two, so that's, I think, there's sort of three big things that one lays at her feet as major failures. Her failure to respond to intelligence that was available in the summer prior to 9/11, her authorization in July of 2002 of torture, and her participation, and as Jeffrey said, her enabling as a careerist of the lies to the UN and the presentation of false intelligence, along with Colin Powell, who was the person who was even more the front person who stood up at the UN and lied about the intelligence there. And I think those are, there's others as well, but those three things, her disregard of intelligence that might have given us some advanced warning with 9/11, her authorization of torture, and her lying about the intelligence to justify the war. Those are three major things, that I think justifying regarding her as having committed crimes against democracy, in lying to the society and gaining false support for the war, and crimes against humanity. And I think those are, quite good reasons to protest her coming to campus.
If you don't mind me asking, obviously we all know about the protests that could be happening on November 30th, but most of the things that we're talking about in regards to Condoleezza Rice are things that happened 4, 5, 6, 7 years ago. If the point of a protest or a demonstration is to bring about change, what is the point of this particular endeavor? And just to the point of specificity, more than just raising awareness, what physical change will happen because of this action?
I don't know. Can I just...
Could you summarize the question?
Oh, sure. The question is a very good one, a pointed one, which is these are the events depicted in the film and the events for which Condoleezza Rice's career will forever be associated took place, quite some time ago now, 7, 8 years. And so, what relevance are these events to current day struggles, and what is this protest intended to accomplish? Well, I'm sure the organizers probably want to answer to. I'll say my own personal hope, I guess, and then which may have absolutely nothing to do with what they have in mind. But sort of one of the shocking things to me, and maybe I should be able to maintain a level of cynicism, but somehow I can never quite do it. And so I think that's what most astonishing me perhaps about those who were involved in foreign policy decision-making during the Bush administration, is that none have really suffered for it. And I don't mean having been charged with some criminal charge or put in jail or anything like that, but and Rice is perhaps the best example of this, is that they have all managed to fail up.
All their lives.
Yeah. There are many reasons to have opposed the war and to continue to oppose it. But I would just I would only need one, and that would be the one that would have been provided by her mentor and advisor, which is that it was a terrible idea. But somehow those who were directly responsible and indirectly responsible have not seen their reputation suffer. Continue to be public figures, continue to be taken seriously on issues of foreign policy, when I don't think they should be. So what I would like to see the protest accomplish, or at least be part of accomplishing, is to basically, it's going to sound undemocratic, but sort of publicly silence her. Why do we need to listen to her anymore?
I don't think it's undemocratic, but Emma, you wanted to...
Well, in addition to that, I think...
Use the microphone.
Yeah, so in addition to that, I think that what we were thinking it could do was just bring up the fact that this war is not over yet. We still have troops there, and there are still people dying, and so we can't change the decisions that she made or the things that she said, but we can work to stop this. And there was, yeah.
One of the things. I have one or two things I want to add, please. Ready?
I can probably just say, can everyone hear me?
No, we need
Okay.
just
It's
separate.
not that hard.
Okay, well, going off of what you said about publicly silencing her, I don't think that that's the case because we will be having teach-ins before she speaks and also in addition to after she speaks. And the fact that we're having teach-ins is not going to deter her from speaking at Athenaeum. So it's an alternative to her speaking engagement already. And also going off on that, I guess, I feel personally, the reason why I am involved in this is because I feel like that she should not be educating college students on policy because she did not follow policy while she was National Security Advisor. And that's what I want to say.
Vince, did you want to add something?
Why not? I'd also just say, is this on? No. I'd also like just to say that it's not just about her as an individual, it's the fact that people use Condoleezza Rice to say that we live in a post-racialized, post-sexualized society because of women of color got into such a high position of power, which is not the case. We still live in a very racialized and a very sexualized society in that sense. And that's also part of the reason why we're bringing awareness to what's going on.
So I want to tie a couple of these things together. I think, first of all, she is speaking as part of just having published a book, which is about self-vindication and celebrating herself as the voice of conscience within the administration, and how she agonized about resigning. I mean, it doesn't happen to be a black woman in the movie, but you can see which characters represent her kind of person in the movie. And I think that one reason to protest is that, you know, what we've seen in the past is that people who fail up and go on these rehabilitation tours often come back to other administrations. And I think it's a mistake to think that because she's failed up that she's been outed as a failure and as a compromiser and as an enabler of crimes against democracy and crimes against humanity. And I think, you know, to try to keep her from coming back, she should be protested now because she's on her rehabilitation tour. But I also think, you know, protesting her serves a little bit different purpose than protesting Dick Cheney, who I think is, in some sense, a different style or flavor of evil. In that he's a true believer, and you got to protest him too. But I think what I love about this movie is it sort of says, okay, we know to be angry and indignant at the true believers who really, in their heart, believed that, you know, this other society, this Islamic society, was dangerous and we should try to take over it and attack it militarily. But they wouldn't have gotten away with it if there weren't careerist enablers like the Condi Rices. And I think the movie does a good job of what we ought to do a good job of, is protesting against careerist enablers of evil.
So yeah, I had a question.
That's some kind of directorial thing?
No,
The cameraman asks the question, what do you do?
is that allowed? So I guess my question would be, there are a lot of people who I've talked to who either agree or disagree with the protests for various reasons, but the hardest question that they've asked me to, that it's been hard for me to answer to them is, with everything else that's going on, in general terms, can we still learn from her? And is coming here 100% bad? Or can we take an air of caution and still take away lessons from hearing her speak and even look at it through a different lens of what not to use as policy advice?
She's not going to say anything that's not in her book and that's not on YouTube. So the notion that there's really an educational activity going on if you go to listen to her ignores the fact that she's on a, one campus, one day, one the next, and she's just saying the same lines over and over again. How could you make, and also she's much more polished and practiced at this than the people in the audience, so she's ready for everything. So it's not going to be actually an open exchange. She's just going to say what she's printed, what she's already said, and she's very unlikely to be, in any sense, challenged by the questions and say something different or actually respond to them. If you wanted to have an event that was educational, when you bring somebody like that, who is so in script and so rehearsed by so many people before she comes out and speaks, what you would have to do is put her in a forum where you had real experts on the particular events from the scholarly community who were able then to, as a panel, ask her questions. And if CMC would do that, actually set up a panel of informed people who prepare questions and engage in a debate, that would be worth going to for educational purposes. But what you're going to get is a dog or pony show.
And I wouldn't want to lose track of the first part of your question, which is I do think you should learn from Condoleezza Rice, and we should all continue to learn from Condoleezza Rice, but you don't have to listen to her in order to do that.
You're meaning learning from in a different way.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.